Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. My name is Adam Portrais, and I'm joined as always by Sean Keenan.
In 1994, Heidi thinks David Hayter was a beautiful man.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear. And guys, is Utah really the beehive state?
Sure.
I do not know. I have no idea. I did not do my due diligence on that. I am sorry.
You know
yeah, I saw the big sign. It said, "Welcome to Utah, the beehive state." And I thought that was a lot of effort to go into for a state nickname.
Yeah, it's you know, it wouldn't be the most bizarre thing in this movie. Folks, today we've got a little something special for you. Now, a good person who we've known for some time now. He has been quite the supporter on Patreon. He has reached a level with which no one else has. These, I think it's been over a year that we've been doing Patreon. So Jim Beverly has hit the highest of heights. Higher than anyone, faster than anyone there. So we have given him reign of today's show, and he has chosen Guyver 2, a.k.a. Guyver Dark Hero.
Guyver : Dark Hero.
Yes. There's a lot of colon in this. I'll tell you that much, boy. But Jim, this is your show, buddy. And
Enjoy.
I don't know how to feel about you at this point.
Utah
Uncork some
is
champagne.
The beehive state, by the way.
Weird, because I don't get a lot of Utah honey around here. I don't know, man.
Quite bizarre. So we'll be talking about that today. It's a fun time. If you, too, would like to, support the show and possibly get on the old HMP Wall of Fame there, head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Join the fun. You'll get extra bonus episodes. You get the pre- and post-show for this program right here every week. And, some other stuff as well. So that's what's... And voting. That's a big thing, I think. Even if you're in at $1, you get to vote, so...
Don't you want to vote?
Don't you want to vote on things? Because
Just
my
vote.
gosh, if like the Patreon people, like their stuff like fills up a good chunk of a lot of our work, which is great. But man, oh man, I think outside of maybe 3 or 4 weeks, we are set for the end of the year. That's how much the show is going crazy, because the superhero stuff don't stop, boy. It don't stop.
21 Jump Street was right. The nerds have taken over.
It's not even close to an exaggeration. But we do have a couple of emails before we get into the show here regarding last week's episode. Let's go ahead and open up the old HMP mailbag.
Bale's here.
All right, so let's look at a couple things here. Maria wrote us last week, and we didn't get around to it because, gosh, the show was just too darn long. But we do want to cover it here, and it's regarding Spider-Man. Hey, guys, I just got home from seeing the new Spider-Man. It was great. I think Tom Holland is probably the best Spider-Man yet. I think what made him so good was the fact that he was so young. He's so incredibly believable playing a 15-year-old. Michael Keaton was an awesome villain. I have a few questions for you. Number one, why do you think they didn't start the whole thing, the whole getting bit on and Uncle Ben dying thing? I like that they didn't, as they've been told already, but what do you think the reasoning was? Number two.
Okay, hold it right there,
right.
and
We'll
the
go
next
shot by
questions
shot.
will come next, okay?
Right.
So, Maria, to answer your question, because we've already seen it, 4 times in movies?
At this point.
Yeah, and everybody knows Spider-Man's origin at this point. If you're in the movie theater watching Spider-Man, you know how he got his powers. I think it was absolutely pitch perfect the way they did it.
He's already been introduced in Civil War having his powers, so to go backwards and make this take place before then, I think wouldn't have been the best way to introduce Sony's involvement in the MCU.
Yeah, and by the way, Maria, I agree with everything that you just said previous. So I'm sorry, continue.
No. But I it's like no one goes. If you see a movie with Santa Claus in it, no one just goes, "Who's this Santa Claus fella?" Could you be a little bit more specific? I'm not sure who this person is, so. I think that's kind of the case.
Maybe that's our superhero movie. Is we have a Santa origin story.
I like that.
Don't give him more ideas.
I've got a spec script already written for that, man.
Knowing you, that would not be honestly, it's a joke, but it might not be a joke coming from you. Anybody else?
Go listen to the Christmas episode of Heroes and Villains.
Oh my gosh!
I already have. I love it. It's a great episode. I'm not kidding. I love that
Santa
episode.
Claus. Thank you.
We did have the. Did you,
Bruce? Not only am I a friend, I'm also a fan.
Oh, you're too sweet.
I look. You know, I'm an Infinite Santa fan.
Ultimate Santa.
You know, I love that crap. She continues. Number 2. I don't know if I missed it, but was there? But what was Michael Keaton's villain's name? The Vulture. I didn't read in the comics. That's a good point, though. Do we really ever hear him call the Vulture? I can't remember.
You do. It's at the very end of the movie. Peter Parker leaves that note for the cops. Hey, here's that Vulture guy.
Okay. I had forgotten myself.
And there's no article. He's just Vulture.
Ooh, like Prince. Number 3. At the very end of the first bit of credits, it showed a prison scene with Keaton and the guy who plays Nacho from Better Call Saul. What's that about? Is it the guy who plays Nacho going to become a villain? I'm confused. Thanks, and keep being awesome, Maria from upstate New York. Yeah, we covered it a little bit.
Good God, I hope so.
We covered it a little bit in the episode, but yeah.
Yeah, he's Matt Gargan, who's known in the comics as Scorpion. Thus the scorpion tattoo on his neck.
And I think that, as long as it's Marvel, it's gonna be great. I think they have the perfect actor for it. That dude is awesome. I love Nacho on Better Call Saul.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, as long as Sony kind of knows its place, if you will.
What a weird way of saying that.
I think,
stay in your lane, Sony.
I think I think it's apt though, because I think Sony just goes, "Oh no, we got this." I mean, look at the Venom verse that they're trying to put together and all that other garbage. I think as long as they don't just go, "Oh, we got this. We know what to do. We're Sony, and we had a great thing with Spider-Man: Homecoming. We can do no wrong." What do you mean we're doing wrong? So
I could just imagine like a quick text from Kevin Feige to Amy Pascal. Hope you brought some Sudoku books because you're not going to have much to do on set today.
God, I hope that's an email that goes around. I really, really do. How
are you
good are you at
bringing your
twiddling your
own
thumbs?
Sudoku puzzles, or should I bring? KF.
Don't let her pass the craft services truck.
But to answer your question, Maria, because I think there's a question behind that question, I think that Scorpion is a great villain to have for another Spider-Man movie, because we've never seen it in a live-action movie. And, one of the things that I think a lot of comic book dorks, like the three of us and you, are sick of is seeing the same thing over and over again. I think that exploring other territory is a pretty good idea. And, maybe you do bring back Green Goblin, but you bring him back for the final third movie, you save him.
Now let me
give us a Craven, for heaven's sake. We've been denied Craven way too long.
I want a Craven. I think it's easy to do. Let me ask you boys this. Do we which would you prefer Scorpion do? Just an actual kind of suit, or do we want more of a kind of mutated sort of, not necessarily lizard-esque, but something more akin to that?
It needs to be a suit.
Yeah.
Still want suit?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. As long as it's...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
And then he could get the symbiote and be the Venom version of Scorpion.
Yes. Because I think that's what's going to happen as well.
Good guess. On to the next email here. This one comes from Matt. Howdy, guys. Glad you enjoyed Homecoming. That movie was quite awesome. Adam, you said you'd reviewed every Spider-Man movie on HMP. Where's the Amazing Spider-Man 1 episode? I said almost, I think.
Yeah, we haven't done Spider-Man 3, and we have not done The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, but we've already got a Stallone connection for Spider-Man 3. I'll tell you about that at some point. All right.
You don't know.
I've talked to the man, so I think I know. Okay, so just giving you a hard time. I love you guys. Sorry about all the emails the other week. That's okay. By the way, but I didn't know that you were... That's okay. I didn't know you were taking a week off. Thanks again for reading them, because it was cool to feel like a part of something awesome.
You are part of something.
Indeed. I'm starting to catch up on the new season of Preacher, and I can't wait to binge the episodes you guys have recorded since season 2 started. Get on it. Looking forward to this week's episode because even when you don't see the movies, especially the bad ones, you guys do a great job painting those mental pictures.
Oh, I've got out my paintbrush.
He's the Picasso he is. Have a great week, guys. You all do great work. P.S. Bruce, my wife, and I finally watched Trolls the other night. It was cute, but can totally understand how it got annoying for you, especially if your kids just want to watch that all the time. LOL.
Can I take over? Can I take over this conversation after Bruce speaks?
Trolls, man. I got some sunshine in my pocket. Got that good song in my feet. Go ahead.
All right. So the director of that movie of Trolls,
Yeah.
Mike something. I don't remember his name. I worked with him on SpongeBob too. That guy is legit funny. That guy is actually honest to God funny. And there's two moments in particular where I was like, oh, this is why this guy has this job. Because we had a pretty tough, well, I particularly had a tough time on SpongeBob too. And that director, Mike, is great. And so he gets the job of being on Trolls while we're working on SpongeBob too. And he's talking about it on set one day and he goes, I wonder what the guys who used to pick on me in high school think when they read stuff like this. And he goes, they're pretty happy and enjoy their life. And then the other one is I had something very heavy needed to get moved somewhere else. And so he says, he goes, hey, do you mind moving that to me? And I said, yeah, no problem, of course. So I'm about to walk away and he goes, don't you need another guy? Isn't that like a two-man thing? And I said, I'm angry enough for two men. And I start walking away and he grabs me by the arm and he looks around to make sure no one else is watching. And he goes, MFer, I'm angry enough for 10 men. Let me go. And I thought to myself, this dude has totally there's a reason why he is here. He's great.
I still got to watch that Trolls film. Everybody says it's really good. I enjoyed SpongeBob too. I did. So good on that. That'll be up.
That was me trying to get on Star Wars. Didn't work.
Yeah, Listen, they're not going to stop making them Star Wars films anytime soon. You'll have plenty of opportunities.
Buddy, I'm planning on doing an end around. I'm not going to be working on the crew. I'm going to be in the movie.
I'm in it, boy. I'm going to be Chewbacca's brother.
He's going to be the new R2-D2.
Beep, boop, beep.
That guy's good.
Boop, bop, boop.
He's at least getting a call back.
We'll let you know. Next.
I've done a lot of extensive robot work. This next email here is from a good buddy, Warren. It's entitled Batman. Something we're familiar with around here. Morning, fellas. Going back through your back catalog, I revisited the Batman Begins episode, and I thought I'd go the whole trilogy, but I couldn't find anything further. Are there any thoughts in revisiting the Nolan Batman trilogy? Funnily enough, we've only covered the first one.
I'm all for it, man.
I'm
all for it. I love The Dark Knight.
Yeah. No, I think most people are. I'm not a huge fan of the final chapter and found that both Dark Knight movies could have trimmed 30 minutes from both, which was distracted from my enjoyment of this trilogy, but would love to hear your thoughts, just an idea, as I'm not an executive producer, but longtime listener and Patreon supporter. It's been a busy year with so many superhero movies and shows available that I can see how you are, how you aren't doing your retro reviews at the moment. Enjoying the weekly episodes and hoping that you get back up and running with the Film Find. Adam, I keep getting a lot of crap about that. Keep up the good work and eagerly anticipating future episodes. Warren from Australia. P.S. Looking forward to the day when someone wins a prize from Australia so you can pay double the freight than the actual prize. Boy, do I hate my life.
Well, Adam, we should just do a setup with like Mr. Sunday Movies guy. And then like, hey man, we'll ship this thing to this guy if you ship this to this guy.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah. But we've been thinking. I've been thinking about kind of how to put the other Nolan Batman movies in there somehow. But like I said earlier in the show, we've only got maybe 4 episodes, and those may get taken up by TV things coming up and not too awful long because I've scheduled out most of the year. But it's gonna happen. It's going to happen. We'll do them for sure.
Yeah, I'm willing to skip Riverdale season 2 in favor of any of the Nolan movies.
But Sean
Me
really,
too.
I thought Sean really wanted to do Riverdale season 2.
No, Sean did not.
Technically, we didn't.
No. I would rather watch the DC direct-to-video stuff on constant loop than see another second of Riverdale.
I'll just say this, however much money you want to send, you can make your wildest dreams come true. Let's close up the old HMP mailbag.
Bale's here.
And as always, if you want to shoot us an email, do that at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. Simple as
So, Adam,
that.
I'm prepping you ahead of time. Do you have the other stinger?
Oh, shucks. I'll get it during the trailer.
Okay.
Here is the trailer for Guyver 2 Dark Hero, a.k.a. the Jim Beverly choice of
The Guyver, an alien force that fights evil on Earth. The Guyver lives in the body of Sean Baker, a man on a quest to find the secret of the Guyver within. He's discovering his destiny. The mysteries of the galaxy, and an evil with powers as great as his own. To save his friends, mankind, and the Earth, Sean Baker must again become the Guyver. He is the only one. The last hope to defeat the predators of the galaxy. The final battle for the fate of the world begins.
You know it's a good trailer when they don't even put the dialogue in it.
What a great old trailer. I love it.
They're just like, it's what it is. That is the trailer for Guyver Dark Hero, a.k.a. Guyver 2. Here is the IMDb plotline. Sean Baker becomes the unwilling host to an alien bio-armor known as the Guyver. A year ago, he destroyed the Kronos Corporation, an organization of mutants who hunt the Guyver. Now he's trying to find the Guyver unit forces him to fight and kill evil. He's led to an archaeological site where scientists discover an ancient spacecraft. He must fight the Kronos again before they discover the secrets of the Guyver's origin. This is starring David Hayter, who I think most people would probably recognize as the voice of Solid Snake in all them their Metal Gear Solid movies, and a couple of other people, most of which you haven't heard of. Directed by Steve Wang. That's not a name that I made up. So let's get into it here. All right, Bruce, what do you got for us?
Well, Salt Lake founder Brigham Young thought Utahns should be productive and self-sufficient like busy little bees. So much so that early Mormons referred to the proposed new state as Desiree, a word from the Book of Mormon said to mean honeybee. They settled on Utah, but vestiges of the early Mormon pioneers' affection for the Apis mellifera can be found everywhere, from the state seal to its nickname, the Beehive State. So that answers any questions I had about Utah being the Beehive State. Now, here's what I've discovered about the Guyver. It is based on a manga called Bio Booster Armor Guyver. It's a series that is written and illustrated by Yoshiki Takaya, or Takaya. I'll get it right if I try enough. That's what I keep telling myself. But the Guyver itself is a symbiotic, techno-organic device that enhances the capabilities of its host. Something called a zoonoid escapes from something called Kronos with some things called Guyver units. One of the lost Guyver units, known as Unit 1, lands near two young high school students. One of them is Sho Fukumachi, and Sho accidentally activates the unit, which then painfully merges with him. Over time, Sho learns more about the Guyver and its abilities. Think, let's just say, a teenage Japanese version of Greatest American Hero here. Now, the Guyver is virtually invulnerable, with its only weak point being the control metal, which becomes important in this movie. Now, with this part intact, the Guyver can rebuild the host from the data stored within, but if this part is critically damaged, however, the host will be eaten alive by the unit and perish. This is, of course, concerning to Sho, so he starts to question whether he will ever be free from the Guyver. The situation gets a little bit worse with time as more and more powerful zoonoids start appearing. The main protagonist of the series, of course, Sho, is 17 years old, a little bit different from our movie here. He fights this organization Kronos to protect his friends and families, more so than from any kind of drive to be a hero or to see justice done. He really had no desire to be a superhero of any kind. However, he does have some supporting characters that don't really show up in this movie, a bunch of sci-fi types that help Sho, and there's something called Zoolords that fight against him. All in all, it sounds pretty interesting, but I couldn't find any references to paleological digs or Swamp Thing outtakes. So let's just go ahead and get this out there as well. I couldn't find any references to Power Rangers, and that's all I've got.
Close enough. I mean, that works for me. It's better than I would have gotten. Now, I'd never heard about this before, but and as I sprung it on you guys last week, Sean, you've actually seen the first one of these movies.
I did. The only two things I remember about it, because I saw it when I was a kid, the only two things I remember about it was that Mark Hamill is in it, and that the suit looked weird. So going into this one, I went into it with, you look it up first. I do anyway. I don't just see something cold anymore. So I went and I was like, oh, Mark Hamill isn't in it. And so like, it's a surprise. This movie was a surprise to me. For a couple of different reasons. And I keep tripping over my own words because I'm trying to work around something here. I think that, you know what? I'm just going to come out and say it.
All right.
Yeah.
I like this movie. I do. For what this movie is, I like it. You know, I think I've told you guys a million times, I don't dislike bad movies. I hate mediocrity. And these guys making this movie absolutely swung for the fences. And they wanted to do the right thing making this movie, and the limitations of their budget is what killed them. You know, they tried their best. It didn't work out great, but for what this movie is, you're not going to make a movie as good as these guys did for the amount of money they made it for, especially with something where, you know, there's a science fiction element. They're going for a little bit of a horror element here. It's not great. I'm not saying that it is. In fact, the movie is kind of bad, but watching this movie, I didn't get the absolute anger and hatred that I would have for, let's say, I don't know, a Power Rangers movie.
Interesting, because I kind of felt like this was a Power Rangers movie.
I know that the dude looks like a Power Ranger just because it's the limitation of the costume. But I guarantee you, if you gave these guys $30 million, they would look that suit would look 1,000 times better.
It also the concept of the creatures that he fight against, they're a lot like Rita Repulsa's little minions.
That's funny because to me it feels a little like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, when they're not fighting the Foot Clan, they're fighting like, you know, weird sewer creatures a lot of the time, at least in the old Mirage comics.
Yeah, but you're also admittedly not a real diligent Power Rangers viewer.
That's true.
So you might miss kind of the concept of just how much these sort of, okay, we'll take a random animal and turn it into a monster, and that's our creature. Because they do a whole lot of that here, and I guess that's why
add
they're
a
called
couple
Zoonids.
tentacles and maybe an armor extra too, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for the kind of filmmaking that this is, because they can only shoot like they're not shooting take after take to get it right, because they can't. They don't have the money for it. So what they did instead, and I can tell just by watching this movie, is they blocked everything like it was a stage play, and then they shot it so that they didn't have to do retake after retake, because they didn't have the money to do it, because they're shooting it on film, and so they didn't have the luxury of like, oh, you know what, we didn't get that exactly right. I mean, there's going to be a few takes, but there's not going to be 10 or 15 that you would generally have on a movie like this.
And not only is the budget low, I think the budget I saw was $1 million.
Yeah, just under.
But you also have to think that some part of that's licensing. I mean, it might not be a big part, but we're not going to see $1 million on screen either, because there's, even if it's a small amount, you still have to pay to license this property.
Right. And with that in mind, this is the movie we got. It's not, again, I'm going to say this over and over again. This movie is not a good movie, but it's the kind of bad movie that I like to watch. Like if we didn't have this show, let's say everything goes wrong and Adam decides he's going to fire the both of us.
Oh,
what a dumb move on my part.
I'm going to go ahead and open up my schedule then.
I would, if this movie was on, I would watch it. I know I would.
So what I'm hearing that this kind of sits with you the same way that Nick Fury movie sat with me.
Exactly right. Yes. Exactly right. Because, a lot of this is bad. Like the dialogue needed so much punch up. They need to speak the way that people actually speak, but they're trying to get out so much information that there's only so much that they can do, because they can't show you. They have to tell you what's happening.
Yeah.
And, the limitations of like, just him watching the news and it happens to be exactly the moment that he needs to be watching. I mean, just stuff like that,
Plot device
now, Adam,
TV.
What's the name of the old guy from Jurassic Park? Is it David Attenborough?
Yeah.
Imagine how much better
Richard
this
Attenborough
movie would be with David Attenborough playing the part of the senior archaeologist.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Well, he was clearly trying to be him. Now, I think, if memory serves, this is either the same year or just the year after Jurassic Park.
This is 94, man. So it's pretty close.
It's Richard Attenborough.
I forget. The Attenborough brothers, you know how that is.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I knew probably my instinct would give me the wrong one.
So this one was 94. Jurassic Park was 93. And I say that because one of the big things in here is like when the guy's out, looking for the bear monster, whatever, that killed his brother or whatnot, and he's got the photographer there. The photographer does go with the line, "Shoot her, shoot her." So I'm just like, feels like they just plucked that right out of Jurassic Park.
And even though this was shot in the U.S., I don't know about this one, but did the first one have Japanese financing? I mean, was it a Japanese production ultimately?
It is, yes.
Yeah, because, we make the Power Rangers references, but Power Rangers are indicative of an entire sort of genre of Japanese television and movies. So it shouldn't, surprise us that those similarities are there.
Yeah, and now and like I said, I think the biggest thing in this is what they did with the amount of money that they have. There are some things in this that just look like the ultimate big budget student film. And then there are parts of it that, like, some of these creature effects are really, really good, especially the ones that speak. I was kind of blown away on how good that was.
You're talking about where they got that leftover predator mask and used it.
Yeah, it's kind of predator creature from the Black
Lagoon. Clearly, that's what they're implying, even in the trailer. I mean,
I don't even think they're implying it. I honestly think they got a discount on one of the old predator masks and just reused it.
Maybe they did. I don't know.
Warner Brothers is auctioning off
I don't know the answer to that.
You know how stuff goes. Come on, man. You work on movies. Weirder things have happened. That'd be like just going out and getting a William Shatner mask and putting it in your movie.
Flipping it inside out.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is David Hayter himself, right? So David Hayter is like a super Renaissance man. Like, he really is. Yeah. He's not the best actor. He's not great in this movie. But David Hayter is also one of the writers of X-Men 2 and Watchmen. Like, that's insane.
And, is it Solid Snake that he does the voice of? I mean, pretty iconic video game character, though I'm not much of a video game guy. Even I know, I've heard the name Solid Snake.
I mean, he's been doing it for over 20 years.
Really, a career that any one thing you would say he was a moderate success, but you combine them all together and it lets you know there's some kind of spark inside of this guy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Bruce, he's King Shark on The Flash.
I know, man. When I saw that, that's like the only credit that mattered to me.
Throw the rest of this garbage out.
David Hayter is very, very impressive to me. You know, he basically has the career I so desperately want.
This movie, though, it felt like it was trying to be his star vehicle for sure.
Well, you're right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong with that. But this movie again is earnest. That's another thing that I like about it. Like they're not winking at the camera saying, "Look, we know this sucks."
You get the idea. Stephen Wang. It's Wang with an A, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wang.
You get the idea. He's a fan of the property. You know what I mean when you see this, because it would be very easy with the low budget, just trying to get something out there that's kind of a grindhouse feel to it. But like you said, he's really trying to give us what he sees, his vision of the Guyver.
Yeah, for sure. And just doing the research on this thing, this is supposed to be a course correction because the fans of the Guyver hate the first movie, like hate it, and they don't hate the second one. They don't love it, but they also don't hate it.
Because it would have been real easy to just do like a Swamp Thing 2 kind of thing with this, where we know it's going to be schlocky, so let's just lean into the schlock. But he wanted to, I guess, once again, I'm just going to use your word, wanted to be earnest with it.
Yeah.
Sincere.
And this is the first instance I can think of where the first movie is PG-13 and the second one is rated R. I can't think of another. It usually goes the other way.
Yeah. Now, he co-directed the first Guyver movie, and that I think it was one of those, he probably wanted a little bit more, power to work on this second one, so he's just like, all right, I'm going to do this. And by the way, Bruce actually did special effects on Predator, so he just may have just yanked it right off set.
I'm telling you, man, I don't think that they were trying to mimic the Predator look. I honestly think they got a spare mask.
Here's the thing, though. Predator didn't have those lines of dialogue. I'll tell you that much. They improved.
Well, all they needed was for Hayter to say he didn't have time to bleed, and that would have made it better. He would be a governor now. He'd be Governor Hayter now of Utah.
This is where you messed up in your life, David. How do you feel?
Never argue with the body, Ventura. But I'm going to tell you, though, the costume. Is this essentially the same costume that was in the first one, Sean?
I remember the first costume being clunky like this one, yes.
Because I can't imagine this costume. This is an example of trying to be too faithful to the source material. This is somebody who really loves the manga or maybe the anime. I don't know if the anime came before or after the movies. I don't have my timeline there. But they tried just a little too hard to be faithful. And I got to say, the first thing I think, in that little opening scene with the Barbie dolls made out of cocaine and the Guyver shows up and kills everybody, the first thing I think is on top of his head is the sort of thing that a male cricket needs to ensure that the cricket species continues to exist. That is not something you want to put on a helmet unless someone absolutely demands you do it.
Yeah.
This is during the time also where it was more important to the movie that the costume looked good in still photography, and it didn't matter so much for the movie itself.
And those long blades on the elbows, once again, when you're drawing a manga, and manga loves the angles and the lines and the shape and the flow, but that doesn't work always in live action. But man, do those not just seem like the most impractical weapons ever, to have blades coming out of your elbows?
Especially when the Guyver's got to drive a car.
Oh, man.
Well, it also, there's nothing. I
can see him running through a crowded street, just slaughtering everybody on either side of him.
There's nothing practical about the suit at all. I mean, if you were really going to have alien technology inside of you, you would think that at the very least there would be a mode of transportation included in the technology.
I want to see like laser beams and stuff, maybe you send out some sonic bombs or something. I want to see it a little more Iron Man and a little less Iron Maiden, I guess.
Hey, he's got some lasers. He's got one on the top of his head where he wrote out the Guyver on the wall.
But so far it's a laser printer, and then he can use it to interface. But then when it comes to fighting, he's relying on the same weapons that, let's just say, William the Conqueror used to conquer or to win the Battle of Hastings in 1066, only without as many trebuchets.
Damn it, Bruce! I was about to say the same exact thing.
But doesn't he cut through a fence or something at some point with the little laser head deal, like right there at the beginning?
Maybe, but come on, isn't that like a weird misuse of resources when you use your laser to cut through a fence that you probably could have jumped over?
This goes with everything like that. Like, why doesn't Voltron just pull out the blazing sword right away? Like, it's the same thing, It's because the Guyver is a showman.
We got to tussle around a little bit before we get to the good stuff.
Oh, it's like professional wrestling.
He knows that he's got a laser, but he's going to put on a show for the people.
People pay good money to sit in this swamp and watch us go at it.
And man, it really did bring back some Swamp Thing memories when they're fighting in the water in those bad rubber suits. I shouldn't say bad rubber suits. They were bad rubber suits in Swamp Thing. They're passable rubber suits here, but boy, Swamp Thing was 12 years earlier or something. But I had a Swamp Thing flashback. I wanted to see the little kid in the thick glasses say, "There goes the neighborhood,"
Yeah.
I loved how.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
I loved how we started out. Just from like a scene, like a different scene thing. I also liked how the movie started in a John Woo warehouse from like Hard Boiled or something.
Yeah.
It was just so great, that just kind of blue sort of look and everything. Random thugs. And I'm going to beat these guys up.
And I really thought this was going to be about the Guyver bringing down like the big boss of the drug cartel. This is a weird, kind of a weird opening vignette. I kind of expect this to be sort of bookending the movie, but it's just they want to give us an example of the Guyver being really tough, and who better to kill than drug dealers. They want to show him killing, because that's a big part of this movie. Is this time Guyver kills. But they also want him to kill people that we can have no sympathy for, and then they just sort of disappear. And he goes to Utah. I mean, we're like on the docks in New York with Barbies made out of cocaine. Next thing you know, we're seeing an old hunter guy claiming he saw a werewolf. Which, by the way, I don't care how drunk you are, a rhinoceros does not look like a werewolf.
I love going back for half a second. I love the conceit of the Barbie dolls being made of cocaine, and then
I love it.
Then you boil them down, burn them down, and it's 100% pure. I'm like,
100% pure.
In what world does that take place?
It reminds me of that movie where Cheech and Chong had a van made out of marijuana or something. Do you remember that?
I don't remember any of those.
I'm too young to have seen Cheech and Chong movie.
No, you're not. But anyway, they also have this scene of him breaking up with his girlfriend because the Guyver kills.
Yeah.
And the girlfriend here has the same name as the girlfriend from the manga. And they also, hired they cast it appropriately to match with the character in the manga, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it also seems like, you're on a tight budget. Couldn't you just have him like reading a Dear John letter with a woman's voiceover? Like, they really went to some trouble. Is that the same actress that played her in the first movie? I don't know, but that also seemed like I'm expecting the ex-girlfriend to show up again, like to be the hostage at the end or something, but she's just gone.
Tying up loose ends, man.
Look, mistakes were made.
I'm just thinking, even I don't know what the guild minimum rate is for one day of shooting, but even like $300 I could have saved, man. Put it towards a laser beam, a better laser beam for the Guyver.
You either get this girl or you get one singular laser beam. Which do you want?
I mean, how much is a video toaster? Like $2,400 back then? They're 1/8 of the way to a video toaster if they cut that scene.
Oh man, are you kidding me? You know how many star wipes they would have used if they had the technology for a video toaster?
I love Star Wipes. That was the name of my old intramural dodgeball team.
The Star Wipes.
We were undefeated.
You wiped the floor, so to speak.
Oh yeah. But anyway, he's watching television. I guess I don't know. Do you drown your sorrows with Inside Edition. I mean, this is clearly Maury Povich's show, Inside Edition, that they're showing us here, right?
Yeah, it's a little Inside Edition,
I love this scene so very, very much. I can't even tell you. Like, this is the stuff where every bad action movie has it in it. Like, whether you're watching Stallone and Cobra or, Guyver, Dark Hero, where I turn on the television, the information is being conveyed that needs to be conveyed, and immediately shut off the TV.
It's a trip to Exposition Island.
It is so wonderful. It's something that they would never do in movies now. And so if you were going to make your parody of 80s action movies, you need to have the scene in there.
Yeah, we're looking for I don't know, Lizard Joe. He's on the loose. Turn on the TV. A man known as Lizard Joe was just seen robbing local drugstore. Turn off the TV and go to the drugstore and have the fight.
Well,
Exactly.
He turns on the TV.
That's exactly what happens here.
He turns on the TV. He sees the Inside Edition, and like his first inclination before story number 1 comes up, he grabs the remote and hits record, just going, I don't want to miss this.
Well, hold on a second, because I think that's weird that you don't videotape Entertainment Tonight. Is that just me?
It's Inside Edition. It's Inside Edition, man. But here, I think they call it Interior Exposition or something. They try to get as close to Inside Edition as they can.
Might as well.
Well, they have, because it is the 90s. There's a big red X there, and it's expose.
Yeah, that's it. But, man, they really want to give us that Inside Edition experience here, which was groundbreaking at the time it came out in, 89, 90.
I was about to say, no one under 30 knows what we're talking about.
Well, they shouldn't be watching this movie if they're that young.
Which reminds me, I want to start talking about PM Magazine.
Oh, did you ever do any shoots for PM Magazine, guys?
No.
Me either. But I do like it, though. He has a dream. And apparently he stole some child's crayons to draw a picture of what he saw in his dream. Then he watches this guy that saw the guy that saw the werewolf, who also maybe draws a picture of the werewolf, which clearly is a rhinoceros. And then he goes to a local roadside convenience store. And once again, just like you turn on the news at the exact moment when you walk into the local roadside convenience store, the exact moment the lady from the archaeological dig you're interested in is in there shopping, you show this woman traveling alone. You look like a drifter who just hitchhiked your way across America.
A handsome drifter.
Mm-hmm.
You pull out a drawing that looks like it was done with a stolen crayon. And then she goes, "Oh yeah, come on, just jump in my car. I'll take you back to the dig."
I've got to tell you,
a young 20-year-old woman alone.
Sorry, who was talking there?
You.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Go ahead.
I keep doing that more and more lately. I've really got to get better at that. Anyway, I could have spent another 45 minutes inside that general store. I love that scene so much. It is my favorite part of the movie, which I know is not the point, but I love that the guy who runs the place is like, "We don't like your types around here." And then there's the old guy behind the Guyver, Sean Barker, who he's just fumbling with money and listening to them, and then fumbling with his money again, and then listening to him.
Has his shirt unbuttoned to his belly button.
Yes, I love that. And then a woman who looks remarkably like my ex-wife walks into the general store, and she happens to be working on the dig. I love everything about that scene.
And I also like it, man, that just showing a picture of some crayon drawings is all the credentials you need to get taken to a cave with a potential new discovery in it.
But that also explains why when he's talking to the lady at the dig, he goes, "How much is this many?"
How much is this many? Yeah. Oh man, but then they go back and it's weird. I've done some various kinds of field research, but I've never been on a paleological dig. But I imagine that it's not quite like this. Like, she walks in with a 24-pack of beer and says, "Take this to the commissary." I've done field research. There's no commissary. It's you take what you can get your hands on with you, and you try to keep it where other people won't steal it. That's kind of how it works.
The funny part is like she hands it to her, and then the gal makes a beeline to the tent that's just off to her right. That's like, take this as a commissary. You couldn't walk 2 more feet to your left, you jerk?
And if you're within a short drive to a convenience store, you really don't need a commissary. Like, we had to hike 6 miles through the jungle to get stuff, and we still didn't have a commissary.
Listen, Bruce, bringing back in is Indiana Jones ways for everybody to be impressed about.
I love it.
It's actually 6 kilometers, not 6 miles. I apologize.
I like to think of the young Bruce Leslie Chronicles all the time.
Got a hat and a whip.
Man. I had a baseball cap instead.
It turned to the sideways. It was that time.
I would totally imagine that it was a complete faux pas while you're doing research work to look like Indiana Jones as you were out there.
But he is constantly screaming, "It belongs in a museum."
When they took my bullwhip away from me, I pouted for a few days, but I got over it.
What is the bullwhip budget for archaeological expert?
Oh man. They only let the boss have the bullwhip, and I tried to show up with the bullwhip, and they took it away.
You haven't reached this level yet. Get back.
If you're not wearing a pith helmet, you don't get a bullwhip.
Ooh. When you were out there in the field, Bruce, how many Nazis did you run into?
Oh, it was all commies where I was at.
Of course, those filthy Reds.
Oh man, we were there to study lemurs. You wouldn't believe how many alien species I discovered at night.
He's just off on another sojourn into the woods. Who knows what he'll find this week?
Man, I was so disappointed. I didn't set off a single booby trap all summer.
Were you in love with an alcoholic?
Well, I loved myself a lot back then.
A lot of self-love.
Oh, man. But back to the movie here. So,
I'm sorry, because I could take us down that hole all day with these questions. So please do.
Have either of you guys ever been in a cave?
Yes, of course.
Not a proper cave.
I don't think Steve Wang had ever been in a cave before, because man, these caves are nice.
I love it. Lit from every angle.
They are super nice caves. I like that. And I
like that there's running lights every half a foot.
It's so lit.
Me too. They even have like a high voltage transformer box in the cave for their dig. These people are in it for the long haul.
Can you imagine how long it must have taken them to do that?
All the drilling that had to go on. Like, they have the equipment to run power lines underground, apparently, because we don't see power lines dangling everywhere in the cave like you kind of really would if you were exploring a cave. Yet they've got just like tiny little chisels and picks to dig at the rocks for their spaceship. But, somebody came in and bored out like these long trenches under the earth to pass these wires through to wire the place.
So good, man. Again, to me, this feels like a movie made by people who love movies, and so there's a lot of unrealistic things about this movie because they just want to make a really nice movie, basically. And so all of the things that we're talking about here makes it even more charming to me.
Well, how about the first fight with the rhinoceros? The first time and I like it that his word that he has to say to activate the Guyver is Guyver.
Very Shazam.
And they've got a few times where they could afford to show us his transformation, which, let's be honest, it's not breathtaking. But then there are other times where they do like the Supergirl thing where he walks behind a tree and comes out with the costume on.
You hear a lot of whoosh whoosh in the background.
Yeah,
my favorite is the redneck hillbilly who's about to shoot the wolf man and keeps asking for his money from the reporter.
Take your picture. Give me my money. Give me my money. I love that. But we do get to see the Guyver fight with the rhinoceros. And then later we find out that, of course, the rhinoceros turns back into security guard guys, and he's got the little scrape on his forehead, and that lets the Guyver know who Rhino Man is. And also the apparently, I guess the black guy's like a researcher. I don't think he's a security guard. I think he's there as a researcher, and we start thinking he's nefarious. And then it's one of the good tricks from a nice 80s movie is where the guy you think is going to be a bad guy is really an undercover agent who's there to help you, kind of thing. I like that.
From the government.
Felix Leiter feel to it.
I did too. He is with the FBI.
And he's been in other movies too. I looked up his filmography, and he's got a lot of like hashtag number, like customer number 2, patron number 4. He's got a lot of those kind of roles, but I kind of like this actor. I think, everybody's got their favorites. I think I might like him a little better than David Hayter in this movie.
He is, his name is Christopher Michael. And the biggest thing he was in is The Cable Guy.
Underrated, The Cable Guy, everybody.
And he has 154 credits on his IMDb page.
He is one of those guys.
That dude has just worked nonstop since the Guyver.
I kind of like the guy.
Me too.
Not bad.
Especially when he puts the gigantic headset on, later in the movie.
That he hears like a twig, snap, wearing that big giant, helicopter helmet, essentially, and he goes, "Hey, what was that? I heard the, and then it's so bad, but so good."
And we get the reveal a little bit later on, once we figure out that the security guards are all zoonoids. They all turn in. Let me see if I can run down what zoonoids I can remember.
That old story.
We have the Predator guy that we already talked about. Mm-hmm. We have the one that has chowder buckets. I don't know what animal she's supposed to be, but there's only one zoonoid with chowder buckets. We got the one that's kind of a froggy face guy, and then we got the rhino. And then we've got sort of the good guy zoonoid that's like the crawfish.
Yeah.
That's the lady Corey's father.
Yeah, crossed with like some sort of an arachnid, like a fish arachnid.
That's kind of what a crayfish is.
Yeah.
It's a water scorpion.
Water scorpion. We'll have some water scorpion tonight.
But we get a whole lot of back and forth. They discover that it's a spaceship. He figures out that they're not really digging for some Paleosaurus. I think is what the technobabble. Well, not technobabble. The paleology babble animal that they come up with is Paleosaur or something like that, which is we need a fake name for a dinosaur, Paleosaur.
Perfect.
Well, I got a question about that. So because what I thought they were doing was they thought that they were looking for alien bones, and they just kind of stumbled on the fact that it was a ship. Am I getting that wrong? Because
no, I think they stumble on the ship. I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's exactly like the X-Files movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It's kind of to give an example. It's kind of like Guyver, Dark Hero.
Is David Duchovny the Guyver?
In a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm all for it. As long as it has that cricket, what on his head, I'm all for it.
They both got pretty girls in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
David Duchovny is a pretty girl. I'll go with that.
Okay, sure.
Did you see that episode of Twin Peaks?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Isn't that where he wears a dress?
I probably I'd go with that. But I do like it that they're all blowtorch. They do all kinds of stuff to try and get the spaceship open, and they can't open it. And then Sean calls on his Guyver bumps. He's got like little Guyver bumps on the back of his neck, I guess. And they just open up the portal, and everybody goes in. And for some reason, they have like a really old 1950s black and white camera to videotape them going in.
Uh-huh.
Despite, a camcorder would have been pretty commonplace in '94, especially when you have the money to hardwire electricity in your cave. But then they go in and they find, another Guyver unit. Essentially, that's the crux of this movie, is this other Guyver unit is found, and if it gets into the hands of the zoonoids, that means bad stuff. And I guess it's also in the spaceship where he has this weird interface with the ship, and we get to see like human history in relation to the Guyvers and the zoonoids. Like we see cavemen, which for some reason made me think of some of your previous comments from Preacher Pot.
Yep.
Neanderthal Guyvers and Neanderthal zoonoids or something, and then I guess the Guyver spaceships all leave. I think we're supposed to take away some kind of narrative, but to me it feels kind of like a messed up ride in one of those like science museums where you take a little ride on a car and you're supposed to learn things by watching.
So it's all funky and weird, like a creation museum.
Yeah, or I think it's like Scientology meets creationism, and they make their own museum because you got the spaceships there too. But definitely I don't know. I don't think it conveyed a narrative as clearly as perhaps the filmmaker thought it would there. I think what I've read on analysis and like people talking about the movie is we're supposed to understand aliens came, tried to use humans as weapons with these Guyver units, and it was too unreliable, so they gave up and left. But I didn't really get that by watching that little scene.
I definitely did not get that. All I took away from it was, hey, look, there was a Guyver with the caveman times. Isn't that awesome?
But what I did see get taken away was that new Guyver unit that has like the crack in the front of it. You know, in the comic book connection, I said if that piece malfunctions, then the whole thing's a disaster waiting to happen. Mm-hmm. And the bad guys, the Zoanoids, get that Guyver unit. And we get your standard Voltron fight, your standard Power Rangers fight. You get the monster and you get your hero, and you get them powered up and fighting. So the monster's fighting the hero. Then the monster goes into some kind of super mode that makes the hero have to go into super mode. So we end up getting a Guyver Zoanoid or a Zoanoid Guyver. I guess you'd call it a Guyver Zoanoid. You go in alphabetical order there.
Sure.
And it's damaged, but we got to talk about some of the choreography in this final fight, man, because this is really, I think people that love this movie, especially the people that were like those right place, right time people, when they love this movie, I think a lot of it comes down to this final fight. Because my theory is this is 94, Power Rangers hits right around 92, 93, somewhere in there. And you've got like the 11-year-old kid who likes Power Rangers. Then when he's 13, he hears, man, there's a Power Rangers movie where they kill people. We got to watch this. Go to the local video store and rent this thing. It's like Power Rangers with blood. It's for real. It's like the stuff we love, but
a couple of naughty words
for kids
in there
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really think there's a lot of folks at that right age that were Power Rangers fans. They see this, and it's like the Power Rangers movie where people get to stab each other and guts fly out and stuff like that.
That makes total sense. It really does.
But boy, they really lean into the anime-inspired fight moves, though, because you get this one thing where he jumps and twirls. You get some of your standard Power Rangers posing and stuff, but then you get the flying kick where his feet are like going back and forth like he's playing a double bass drum for Metallica, only he's doing it totally in the air against the guy's chest, and it sort of looks like a Three Stooges thing that would be played for laughs, you know, because the feet are pop, 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 while he's still flying through the air.
It's so
that
good.
was a bridge too far.
An impossible thing for any sort of physics thing to happen. It's so great.
Yeah, you know, the charm is just oozing out of this movie. It's so ridiculous. I laughed when I was watching it, and I still loved it.
And then, of course, he pulls out the eyeball, I guess you would call it, the control button from the evil Zoanoid Guyver, and it causes the suit to essentially eat up the Zoanoid. But you know, the trailer plays it like this is for the fate of the world, and of course, we don't want a Guyver Zoanoid out there. But at the end of the day, he kills one Zoanoid, he keeps the Guyver out of their hands, but there's still like a whole bunch of Zoanoids out there, right?
Dude, like,
I mean, we're assuming that this wasn't the only 5 of them that existed.
Right, because Homeboy comes in and he's just like, there's this, what about Guyver LA? What about Guyver this, that, and the other? And it's just like, there are these all across the country kind of thing.
And he makes the terrible decision to use his Guyver power to send the spaceship away, because how sweet would it have been in Guyver 3 if he had a Guyver mobile that was a spaceship?
So good.
Some sort of awesome, like, motorcycle kind of thing.
Yeah, like Street Hawk kind of a thing. That'd be awesome.
I want the whole spaceship to like go inside of his body, and when he needs it, he like vomits it out and then climbs inside and flies around the world.
He throws up the ship. That's great.
I think so too. Like you have like tentacle, like bio tentacles coming out of his mouth, and it wraps around him. Beautiful, and would be pretty close to the source material.
And you know, at the end, the FBI agent tries to recruit Sean to work for the government with his Guyver abilities, but he says, nah, I'm going to go off and do some necking with this girl here. And they jump in her truck and go off and neck, I guess.
To be fair, she's good looking.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine if you spend enough time in a cave fighting monsters, just about anybody's good looking.
Now, I'll say this. My lowest thing for this movie is the soundtrack. It is terrible. It is.
And you know who is responsible for the soundtrack to this movie?
Lay it on us.
Les Claypool.
What in the world?
I know it. The guy who made the theme to South Park and from Primus, Les Claypool.
It's so uninspired. Like, the big thing is it's so uninspired, and it is the same. Like, it's the thing that drags this movie down the most for me. And, like, where action scenes become boring because of the music. And you really realize how big of a component music is to movies while watching this, because the music here is just monotonous and boring and just,
I thought it was that Silvestri guy you get when you can't get John Williams.
How dare you, especially the name of Alan Silvestri. How dare you?
Yeah, he made the theme to Back to the Future. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's like, shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about. But this guy, this is bad. The music in this is just awful. It's
you know what it feels like to me is that because Les Claypool is pretty famous at this point already. So he's like, look, guys, you've got me for 2 hours. I'll just do it live and just record everything I do as the movie is going. Almost like, like the way that people used to watch movies with the rink-a-tink-a-tink-a-tink as they were watching silent
Where they
film.
actually had the piano player in the theater.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was the same thing, only this time they had to capture it so they could put it in the movie later. You've got Les Claypool for an hour and 22 minutes.
And he got super excited and just kind of kept repeating the same thing because he was so engrossed in the movie.
Isn't that how Miyazaki got his start? Was like playing piano in a silent movie theater or something weird like that?
I don't know.
Man, I hope that's right.
That sounds cool.
What a cool story.
All right. So
We
before
gotta wrap it up.
What do you think I'm doing here? Come on.
He's trying to wrap it up, Bruce. Come on.
Jeez Louise over here. I'm about to throw it off to the most important part of this program is we have to find out how Guyver 2 Dark Hero relates to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. It takes a special kind of dude, bro, to find the Stallone connection each week. Sometimes it's quick, like in our review of Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2, Episode 156 of Hero Movie Podcast, when Stallone actually appears in the movie. And my job was so easy that week, I felt like I was riding the San Diego biscuit wagon. Other weeks, it's a chore, like the guy who had to cut off his own arm with the knife of his Leatherman multi-tool. Luckily for me, this week is like neither of those because it's squarely in the middle. Little bit of snooping around, and the universe presents the connection and makes me feel a sense of peace that I very rarely feel with the life that I have chosen for myself. When it comes to this long-running comedy bit, I know some people say it's exactly like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with Sylvester Stallone, and they would be correct to a point, except that it's only 1 degree. And those people need to shut their mouths because you're listening to something for free. And if you wanted to listen to something without any joy or humor baked in, you should listen to Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History, because while it's great, and I mean great, no one would ever accuse Malcolm Gladwell of trying to perform shtick. The Stallone connection this week focused on the talents of Stephen A. Adelson, who was the Steadicam operator for Guyver Dark Hero. We've spoken about Steadicam guys in the past on this show because in my experience, most Steadicam guys behave like they're from the future. Their technology's so advanced, your simple mind couldn't possibly understand it. So please stay very clear so that your caveman hands never find their way onto the world's most sensitive equipment.
So true.
And while I've never met Stephen A. Adelson, I'm in an uncharitable mood this week, and I would imagine he behaves much in the same way. Stephen A. Adelson's been working in talkies since 1992, and since then, he's worked on some massive projects. He was Steadicam for Batman Begins and Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, which amazingly is still the best Fantastic Four movie to date. Think about that for a second. We live in a world where Ant-Man is a good, solid movie, but the best Fantastic Four movie we have has Jessica Alba in a terrible wig. Stephen A. Adelson also worked on Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, which holds the distinction of having Linda Cardellini at the height of her hotness. Seriously, I know it's a movie for kids, but if you want to be in a better mood, put that movie on because she is so fine in that bad boy. Stephen A. Adelson has moved on to directing and producing, but the highlight of his career is when he worked in the camera department for 2013's Homefront, a movie that was written and produced by but did not star Sylvester Stallone. We've spoken about this movie before, but something new I found out is that Winona Ryder is in it, where she plays what Winona Ryder herself describes as a biker chick. I don't know what Winona Ryder as a biker chick looks like, but if you're interested, check out Homefront. It also has Jason Statham and what I'm pretty sure is a totally high out of his mind James Franco. And because I'm becoming more and more attached to this kind of thing, I should also point out that Stephen A. Adelson is also the director of photography for the movie Air Bud, Seventh Inning Fetch, which is confusing since it's actually the fourth movie in the Air Bud franchise, and I didn't even have to look that up. So there you have it, African-American guy that's with the FBI that I never once believed worked for the FBI, and girl who plays the love interest that looks like my ex-wife. This week's Stallone connection. Now let's get back to watching sequels to movies that we didn't know had sequels.
Indeed, indeed. All right, so here on Here Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you want to check out what that is, go to facebook.com/Here Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Bruce, where does Guyver Dark Hero, a.k.a. Guyver 2, fall in the HMP Robin rating system for you?
This was a rough one for me. Now, I do think that somebody could enjoy this like from an MST3K kind of approach, like having at it, not necessarily with it. I don't think it's something I'd ever want to watch alone. I can understand who it appealed to and why, but for me, I can't really go any higher than a Stephanie Brown.
Fair enough. Keenan?
For me, it is a low Damian Wayne. I like this movie a lot, but it's not for everybody. I know that, but it's charming and I dig it. So low Damian Wayne.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I'm on the low Damian Wayne. I was just on the border between that and Stephanie Brown constantly, but the stuff that's good in it is really good. The costumes are pretty sharp. I honestly, with the budget that they had, I can't believe they made those aliens talk and it look as good as it did. Shocked. And the fight scenes are fun, if not for the awful music playing in the background. So, yeah, it's just barely a Damian Wayne for me. So, there you go. All right, everybody. That is it for this episode. And the next 2 weeks start something big, boy. This doesn't happen too often. We got 2 new release comic book movies that most of you may not even realize are actual comic book movies. So next week, we're going to be looking at Valerian, the new one from the director of such, tiny little films as The Professional. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it is the best Gary Oldman performance of all time.
Maybe even the best Natalie Portman.
Maybe. So we'll be covering Luc Besson's Valerian. Come on next week, everybody. So that is it. In the meantime, where can we find more of your work on the internet, Bruce?
Well, from June 17th, which is the day that this comes out, to June 21st, 2017, all week, that's Friday, from Monday to Friday, Dragon in the Needles, the Kindle edition, will be free on Amazon. And the reason for this is to get everybody caught up because I just released the sequel to Dragon in the Needles, Dragon in Gallus. So if you haven't read the first one, pick it up, read it for free. If you have read the first one, go ahead and pick up Dragon in Gallus on Amazon. Also, just a reminder, Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore is on Audible now, been there for about a week. So go check that out.
Let me tell you, that new cover you got, awesome. Like every cover you get's like better than the last one. This one looks so good. And it's just like I'm judging I'm judging a book by its cover, and I'm just like, yes, this is gonna be great. Keenan.
I feel like I've done nothing with my life. Bruce has written 3 books at this point. You can find me at Hero Movie Sean. I also do a podcast called The Preacher Podcast, and I have some very special news starting next week.
Very good. And, of course, you can always reach us at heremoviepodcast@gmail.com. And I think I may do a Nerd Talk Now this week because I got a little something we need to talk about here. So keep an eye out for that. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we talk Valerian. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.